and welcome to Sports Chatter AZ, live on YouTube. I'm your co-host, Jim Marshall, aka Baseball, alongside Bob Aries, known as Kingpin. How you doing today, Bob?
I'm doing great. Doing great. We had a lot to talk about this week, Jim, and I know
Well,
that you got a lot of subjects that we will cover.
yeah, we got overview of the week in sports. We got the Arizona Cardinals draft. You got the Diamondbacks games, Suns playoff games. We got Rattlers, Mercury are opening up training camp. Had a nice little storm last night out here in Northeast Phoenix. We had rain for about a good hour. We had thunder and lightning. Everybody was talking about hitting 100 degrees, that magical 100 degrees that seems to bother everybody. And then all of a sudden we're down to 70. So probably got a little rain out in the East Valley last night, didn't you?
We got no rain here.
You
So
got nothing.
wait, so when you said that, I'm like, what? What are you talking about? I
Yeah,
haven't
but
seen any. We didn't see anything here, and sometimes
we
I know
ended
it's
up
vice versa.
we ended up with a quarter inch of rain and thunder and lightning. And the wind started blowing around 8:30, and then all of a sudden the lightning started around 9:30, and then the rain, and it lasted until about 11. So isn't it funny out in the valley, especially during monsoon time? You guys will get the Far East Valley will get
Right.
dumped on, and then the Northeast Valley gets nothing, or the West Valley. So it's entertaining.
We got nothing.
So Bob,
Zero.
busy week. You got zero.
Zero.
So busy week for sports in Arizona. So first off, happy belated birthday, 91 for Al McCoy.
Wow.
Can you believe 91 years young? Al McCoy celebrating his birthday yesterday. So
Well,
he was out with
I
some.
know one thing. I won't be celebrating my 91st birthday. So.
That's the thing. If we could live to be 91, wouldn't that be something we could be doing? I mean, it's already the ARP show, the AARP show. We're getting a little shout out to ARP there. But boy, it's going to be in our golden years. We'll be doing a golden years sports talk show. But overview of the sports. Suns. We'll get into the Suns a little bit more. Losing
Do we
last
have to?
night, they just.
Do we have to get into the
Well,
Suns?
yeah. We don't have to. We don't even have to talk Diamondbacks. They kind of have fallen apart. I
But
mean,
we will.
Arizona
But we
Cardinals
will anyhow.
draft.
We will.
But let me ask you, and we'll touch more at the bottom at 8:30 on the Cardinals draft. They did get Marvin Harrison, and everybody's happy about that. Now the thing is, Harrison has to go out and perform. They're a little disappointed in the second round that the Cardinals didn't go out and get Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama, the cornerback. Is he really that good, or is it everybody likes the name Kool-Aid McKinstry because it sounds good coming off of your mouth? So there
Yeah.
are other guys out there. So it's kind of like, and let's revert back to the Bears. They got Caleb Williams.
Yes.
Now it's time for him to show up. Which Caleb Williams are we going to see? Are we going to see the one when he was a freshman that was setting all kinds of records? Or are we going to see the one for the last couple of years that's struggled to get into sync with finding the offense, running an offense, being the general on the field and everything? Which one? And you mentioned yesterday when we were talking about the show prep, they got to get an offensive line around him if the Bears want to succeed.
They do. You went silent there for a second, so breaking up. G- go ahead and say something to me. Just
Well, we were talking about
okay.
Caleb
Yeah,
Williams,
yeah. No. I heard you about Caleb Williams. You're okay now. And everybody, this is what happens when we're doing live TV. So it's sometimes technical difficulties happen, but that's a good question. Who will show up? Will the real Caleb Williams show up? I actually expect him. I'm from Chicago, right? But
Right.
I think, listen, he's got to be better. And talking to friends in Chicago, he's got to be better than Justin Fields, period. Okay? Justin Fields was a
Right.
disaster with the Bears. Number one, for the quarterback, you have to be able to throw. And Justin Fields just was not a great thrower. He wasn't accurate. One thing we know with Caleb Williams is that he can throw and he is pretty accurate. and it's up to the Bears to get him into this offense, whatever this offense might be. And we don't know what the offense has been, right? They've changed coaches so much, right, over the years. And I think the biggest person to help this guy is going to be whoever the quarterback's coach might be with the Bears. Um, I think that they need to simplify some plans and just let this guy go out and play, because they do have some really good receivers there in Chicago, and they just picked up another good one in the draft at a number 9 pick.
Well, the draft overall, everybody gets so hyped up on it. Why is the NFL draft so popular? It's even more popular than the NBA draft. MLB draft, nobody ever talks about. You build up these players and you keep building them up. How many of them really turn out to succeed? I mean, you could go back to, look at Zach Wilson with the Jets. They thought he was the real deal. What did they do? They ran him out. So now he's in. It's funny that the Broncos trade one Wilson for another. You let Russell Wilson go, and now you go get Zach Wilson. But we have put so much emphasis on these quarterbacks, all these quarterbacks that went in the draft, teams trading up or teams finding a way just to go up and get these quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels, did you really think when he was at ASU he was going to be a number 2 pick? Was he going to be the guy that everybody's going to? So, it wasn't
no.
And look what he's done. So now all that pressure is now going to be on him. It used to be quarterback sat on the bench for a couple years to learn the system. Now, when you want to win instantly, you're putting these guys in, and it goes back to Caleb Williams. If they don't have an offensive line and they don't have a good quarterbacks coach and they don't have a good offensive coordinator, in 2 to 3 years, are the Bears going to be looking for a quarterback again? It's the same, adage. You could go back to any team. Look, Arizona Cardinals and Josh Rosen, Kyler Murray. Everybody says he's Kyler Murray is all that. Was it Cliff Kingsbury's style of offense that he just couldn't get it, or is it that he's struggling to learn the NFL style game?
You're going to ask me about Kyler Murray? See, I think Kyler Murray stinks. I'm just going to say it the way it is. I just don't think he's a good quarterback. And, we shall see. He had some of the best receivers in football around him. He had Hopkins, who I think is truly amazing. I just don't think Kyler Murray is cut out for the NFL. I think when they signed this guy to a $230 million guaranteed contract was a joke. And I, especially the year that he came off of, here's the year that he came off of, what I meant is, what did they go? 8-0 that previous year. And then all of a sudden, after he threw that interception in that Green Bay game on the last play, that killed Kyler Murray's confidence, and he still hasn't regained it.
And he hasn't. And the injury, you could tell he's a little timid when he's, running. It's going to be interesting. This is, and for Cardinal fans, we've been saying it, one more year. This is make or break for Kyler Murray. And the Cardinals have got a big decision to make. Now, Monty Ossenfort, he's built up the offensive line. Paris Johnson played really good last year. It looks like he's going to move over and take over for DJ Humphries on the right side. We're going to see how that goes. Drafting Harrison, is that going to help him out? Jonathan Gannon's a good coach. We got to see if he can keep him motivated. But this is a make or break year, so it's going to be interesting. What I always like about it, if you ever have time to watch it, and with everything that's going on, the weather's nice, everybody's going to be out and enjoy it. Rounds 4 through 7 today start at 9 a.m. Everybody's going to be so excited about Mr. Irrelevant, last player taken. Look, we have a Brock Purdy, a local boy out here, goes to the 49ers. So everybody's going to be seeing. This is where you try to find some bargains. You try to find some gems, some hidden gems, I guess is what all these draft gurus that they say. That's where you find out how good your team is going to be, how good your general manager is going to be when you find a guy that's in the 5th round or the 6th round or the 7th round, and you go from there. So for everybody that wants to watch the draft, rounds 4 through 7, down at 9 a.m. It has come a long way from when Mel Kiper and his dad used to do it out of their garage, printing stuff out on a mimeograph machine way back when and cranking it out. Now, what was it? 270,000 people estimated in Detroit just to be there for the draft.
Yeah,
amazing what the draft is. The NFL has turned out, and we're getting off subject a little bit, but the next couple minutes we'll go back to talking about Arizona sports.
Yep.
But the NFL, you pretty much can talk about the NFL year round, which brings up a question. Isn't it time for the NBA maybe to start looking at starting the 1st of December, and maybe hockey maybe starting in the 1st of December and going all the way? The NBA playoffs already go into June anyway, because you play on a Tuesday, then you play on Saturday. Even if you started at Thanksgiving weekend and then you still play the 82 games, excuse me, you could take the NBA into the middle of July. Overall, people, if your baseball team is not in it in July after the All-Star break, what's there to do?
Right.
So you could have the NBA rolling into July, and then when the NBA is over, the NFL starts. It's time that the NBA and the NHL, everybody says, well, in the NHL, it's going to be too hot out. I'm sorry, with all the technology we have, ice is not melting in July like it used to. We have too much technology. So maybe it's time that the NHL and the NBA look at starting in November instead of October, and then you can just play games on Tuesday, Thursday, not Tuesday, Saturday. You can end it, the playoffs could end in July.
I think
so. That'll be real interesting.
Yeah. I think that's definitely a good point. Why have these things end, and then all you let's just say this, and baseball probably is my favorite sport, right? But then you're just stuck with baseball, and like you said, if your team's not in it, well, you got nothing to watch. You know, you've got UFC fighting to watch on Saturday night. You know, I mean, great.
Yeah, how many people are going to watch boxing and UFC and then WWE Saturday, SmackDown and Monday night, So you're right. That's where, at least when you have the NFL, you have the NFL, you have college football, you have the NHL, you have the NBA. During the summertime, you've just got MLB baseball. A little bit of soccer going on, a little bit of indoor football. But if you're not a fan of those, talking about the UFL, how many people are watching the UFL? They're not. Right. It's not the same style. If you have a team in your area,
I'm sorry. Right. Yeah, I won't even turn on the UFL. I can't watch it. I'm sorry. To me, it's
just
it's not even watching a good college football team. So I'm sorry, I can't watch that stuff.
No, and then it brings up the Mercury, WNBA. This is going to be a really testing time for the WNBA. They got a major star, Caitlin Clark. Is she going to help out WNBA and increase the attendance? Everybody's talking about the salaries and everything. Her salary isn't what the NBA players are making because they're not getting the attendance. You're getting 9,000 fans when the NBA is drawing 21,000 fans. So they have to find a way to increase that.
And huge TV revenue as well on the NBA. So, here we still have Diana Taurasi, and is this going to be Diana Taurasi's last year?
Yeah, it makes you wonder if she decided to do one more year because the All-Star game is going to be here, and she got an opportunity to play with Caitlin Clark. You're kind of maybe handing it off, the new whiz versus the old pro. Diana Taurasi, the old pro, and is she going to hand it over to Caitlin Clark? Supposedly the new face of the WNBA. There are other female stars out there that can carry the WNBA, but it seems like I saw a commercial last night for the Phoenix Mercury, and I believe it's June 17th. They've already got it. Indiana's coming to town to see Caitlin Clark. So why not build around it? Why not advertise when she's going to be here and what it's going to take to get it going?
Right.
So.
Right. And we will be, I think for our viewers too, that they should know that we will be covering the Phoenix Mercury. As a matter of fact, we'll get out to their media day next Sunday, a week from tomorrow, here in Phoenix, and then they go play training camp in San Diego this year. So
they're going to be They finalize their roster, and they'll have a few cuts that they'll have to make, but a little bit of buzz. New coach around, going to bring in a different style, hopefully to help out and capture the fan base again. You used to cover the Mercury years ago. Had season tickets for the Mercury. They were consistently drawing 15, 18, even 19,000 sometimes in that arena. Now they're down to 8, 9,000. We got to find a way to bring that spark back. They're going back to the old style. Remember the old dance team they used to do, that would have
the hip hop squad.
Hip hop squad.
And I remember the guy who used to get dressed up in the what's their mascot's name again? Oh my God. Yeah.
Scorch.
I remember the guy who used to be in it. What was his name? JJ or whatever. And I remember talking to him a lot, and this guy could put on a great show. And you know what? It was fun. It was actually fun going to Mercury games because there was a lot of entertainment value. The ticket prices are not as high as an NBA or some of your other sports. And see, I happen to like watching the WNBA game more than I like watching the NBA game because of the fact that I don't think it's something to watch a 7-foot tall guy dunk the basketball. I like the playmaking, I like the shooting of the WNBA, and I look forward again. And it's been many years since we've covered them, and I've covered them, and I look forward to it this year.
Yeah, it's a different style of play. Like you said, there's more finesse, there's more ball handling.
Yeah,
and I like the game. I like the WNBA style of play as well. I think we had mentioned this last week, or you and I, we've been talking. We always have people say, I can't believe you watch the WNBA. It's nowhere near what the NBA is. It's not supposed to be.
Right.
It's not supposed to be. When you go out and you watch women's softball, do you say it's not the same as Major League Baseball? It's not. So it's a completely different style game. And the WNBA is a different style game. And that's how they have to find a way to grow more fans. And whether it's getting more children, more teens, maybe getting more people in our age group involved in it. And let's hope the Mercury, they got some new marketing people around, and new TV contract that they're going to most of their games are going to be on Channel 3 over the air TV. So it's going to be entertaining this year.
All right, and you know what? Maybe what they can do is similar to what the Diamondbacks have done. Diamondbacks have been really great in the community. They've put up these baseball fields all over the valley. I could see them maybe sponsoring some basketball courts or something like that, especially at some of these parks. Why not?
Yeah, the Suns have their kids camp. Thunderbird High School. They've been doing it for years, and they put it on. And maybe that's something in the Mercury. This is the first solid year for Matt Ishbia. Basically he took over, the team last year and never really got a chance, owning the Mercury. Let's see what else he can come up with to encourage more people to not necessarily have to go out to the games, but just watch them on TV to increase the revenue. And that's what it's going to take.
Exactly. And you know what, you mentioned Matt Ishbia, and he does show up to the Mercury games. And what we are planning on doing, and we can announce that now, we are planning on doing a pre-game show at Mercury games. So probably come on about a half an hour before the game, do about 20 minutes or so. But maybe we can get Matt Ishbia as one of our guests, and we're gonna try to get as many guests around that. Of course, prior to that, it's going to be hard to get a player that close to game time, but maybe we can get an interview that we can actually put up here
just before the game starts. Say and that's definitely something that we want to push. It'll be really fun to be down at the arena, on one of their games, and 20 minutes before the game, and the fans are coming in. It's going to be loud. We'll have to see how we can handle the noise and everything as we're doing. Right now, it's nice and easy from your house.
Exactly.
Sit back. But, am I going to be wearing a headset to block out all the noise? And, so we have to look at it that way. So let's jump into a little bit. We had the NFL draft. So, like we had mentioned earlier, the Cardinals get Marvin Harrison Jr. Everyone wanted him. First question I got, though, Monty Ossenford, he did not trade down to obtain more picks. Did he want Harrison all along, or do you think no deal really came along and grabbed him?
Well, we've been hearing about Marvin Harrison for, oh my God, for months now, that's who they're going to pick. That's who they're going to pick. And guess what? That's who they picked. I think that their receivers were fine last year. I just think it was the guy trying to get them the football who is the issue. So, you can have the best receivers in the world, and if you don't have a guy to get the ball downfield and put it in the receiver's arms, it won't really matter who you have.
Right. It looked like once he got into a good groove with Trey McBride, he was always looking for him. Is it because, Brown could not get down the field? He was being double covered. Dortch, it's supposed to be a great year for Dortch last year. Now the pressure's on even more for this year. Is it because they were running the wrong routes? Was Murray looking at the wrong route and throwing the ball to the other side? And now he just got reliable with, hey, I'll dump it off to Trey McBride, or I'll dump it off to James Conner. So that's the thing. I just think he wanted Harrison all along. And, there was speculation. The Vikings wanted to trade up and get a quarterback. Boy, you could get the 13th pick. You could have the 13th pick, the 27th pick. You could get another second-round pick from the Vikings. You'd have all these picks. I think he wanted him from the very beginning and just went from there. He probably had a backup plan if somebody was going to sneak up there and take him. But once the quarterbacks went off and he was readily available, you knew he was going to take him.
Right. And
look, they gained major talent with Harrison.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. Now the question is, can he do it on the field? Everybody says watching him catch passes for Murray to come is going to be amazing. He's the next Larry Fitzgerald. That's a lot of pressure on a young receiver, and that's a lot of pressure on Kyler Murray. And I know how you feel about Kyler Murray.
Yeah. Yeah. And, well, will there be another Larry Fitzgerald in our lifetime? Yes. Is it going to be Marvin Harrison? Not with the quarterback we have. The thing is with Kyler Murray, and even though he lies about his height, because I know that that's a lie. What's it say, 5'11" or whatever?
Right.
6 foot or whatever. I mean, this guy's like what, 5'9", maybe?
Yes.
I mean, he can't see over the line. The thing is, most of these quarterbacks, and I was actually a little surprised, believe it or not. I looked up the other day, just for the first time, Caleb Williams, for instance. I said, how tall is Caleb Williams? Because we've seen all these quarterbacks over, the past few years being like these 6'4", 6'5" guys. Even what's Trevor Lawrence? I think he might even be 6'6" or 6'7".
Right.
just a big guy. He's seeing over the line. Caleb Williams is 6'1" supposedly, but Kyler Murray at 5'9", and I believe that I'm probably right on with that. I've never stood next to him, but he doesn't look very tall, and I would say that I'm probably closer to being right than that media guide.
Well, we had talked a little earlier when the show started. Paris Johnson looks like he's going to move over to the other side. So he looked good as a rookie last year. Had some outstanding games. A couple games he struggled, but overall I thought he had a good rookie campaign. He's going to be counted on to anchor that offensive line. Big pressure on him because now they've got a supposedly so-called playmaking receiver in Marvin Harrison Jr. He's going to have to be at the top of his game, so Murray has a little bit of a chance to throw the ball to him. When Murray ad-libs, nobody can stop him. But you can't have Kyler Murray ad-libbing every other play in the NFL. So that'll be interesting.
And
Second
and and,
round,
and what happens
go ahead.
too? Sorry, just to piggyback, and then I'll let you continue on. But what happens when you keep on running? Eventually, you're going to get hurt. And what happens?
Right. And that's what happened when he had the knee injury. Second round, you and I had talked earlier. They wanted a cornerback. Look, the Cardinals needed help. They needed a offensive line help, which they'll probably address in rounds 4 through 7. Defensive edge. They need an edge rusher. They also need an interior line. They got a guy, Darius Robinson from Missouri. Now, I'm not a draft guru like everybody else, but look for him to start immediately. He can line up as an edge rusher, or he can line up on the interior of the defensive line. Plenty of flexibility for this guy. We know Arizona's lacking in pass rush talent, so
Yeah.
expect him to immediately start. He probably will end up playing multiple spots. So got a good opportunity to get a guy, get in with some good coaching, and let him. He's probably going to start immediately. The other pick that they got, and look, I'm going to be honest, I don't know much about him. I only know the name a little bit from watching college football. So they took a cornerback out of Rutgers, Max Melton, and everybody says Rutgers football. Well, first off, you're playing in a tough conference, and you got some players that are showing up. He started 40 out of 43 games. He showed he can play on special teams. You're always looking for special teams players too,
Yeah.
so that's a good indication that the Cardinals be looking for that. Cardinals need desperate help on cornerbacks, so look for them to take a lot of guys. So he could end up moving to safety, so that could really help out as well. So, and then in the third round, they got a guy, Trey Benson from Florida State. I know the name Trey Benson because you and I, the defunct Pac-12, he went to Oregon. So then he tore his MCL, his ACL, and his hamstring all at one time in a game.
Wow.
And missed the entire 2020 season. Last year in 13 games, he had 900 plus yards. Decent running back. And the Cardinals needed another running back. They're going in with James Conner, Michael Carter. Which Michael Carter is going to show up? The one, from the Jets before he was hurt, or the one that kind of slowed down? He had some games where he did pretty good last year. Then they also got a tight end, which, you always could use tight end help. And then they got another cornerback from Boston College. So like we had mentioned earlier, they still need a running back, interior offensive line. Pretty much depth at all positions is what they need. And this is where you go and you try to find some bargains.
Yep. No, I agree with you there, but all I could say is we shall see. The Cardinals a few years ago were known for defense, right? I mean, teams couldn't score against them, and then all of a sudden, what happened?
Right.
What happened?
Is it right? Defensive coordinator, change in defensive coordinator. For me, I think it's the lack of having talent at cornerback. There's really nobody back there. Now, you give a couple of these guys a year of experience. What will the next year bring for them? You've got a chance to see. They've always said the hardest position, and you always get arguments, quarterback is probably the hardest position to adjust to in the NFL. Cornerback or safety, I think, is always the hardest position to adjust to because the speed of the game and the style of the game is so much different. Yes, there's a lot of college teams that are doing the prototypical NFL style offense, but you're going up against the best of the best. And you got a cornerback and a safety. Once you get schooled and they know they can pick on you, you're going to get picked on.
Right.
Now, once you knock down a few passes and everything like that, you can name bunches of guys. We can start with Patrick Peterson. He struggled a little bit his first couple of games. Then when he got used to returning the kick, punt returns for touchdowns, got a little bit of confidence, started making dive plays at corner and everything. Then they left him alone and turned out to be really good for a few years. So Arizona, I think they really got to boost their cornerback help. They brought in some free agents. They brought a couple of guys from last year. Go sign some guys and just make it an open competition. I think that's going to help the defense. And then having a good edge rusher and good interior line is going to help out.
And I have to ask you this question because I've been watching football now the last few years, and not saying I haven't watched football all my life, but the last few years, what's happened to the blitz? There are, you hardly see any blitzes anymore.
I think since passing has really dominated the game, and most quarterbacks can really snap that throw now, the quick throwing, you're really seeing more safety and corner blitzes than you are seeing a linebacker blitz.
Yeah, you hardly ever see a linebacker blitz.
Right. So, and I think because the tight end has become very valuable again in the NFL, the running back has kind of dropped off. I still think you need a solid running back to have a successful team. But having a good tight end, and you saw that with the Cardinals last year, they were able to have Trey McBride who could throw a block, pancake a guy, and then go out and still be able to catch a pass for 6 or 7 yards. That's the interesting part. But you're right. You are not seeing blitzes like you used to. And I think it's because of the speed of the quarterbacks now getting the ball out of their hands. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting. We always say it every year for the Cardinals. It's going to be an interesting training camp, and it's going to be an interesting training camp. You got a lot of. They're one of the youngest teams in the NFL, and it's time this team started putting it together. There were some games last year where you thought, a player here and a player there, this could be a 10 or an 11 win team. Then the next week you'd say, boy, they need everything, and that's why they were one of the worst teams in the NFL last year. But I like their coach, very positive. This is the first time in a while that we've had a positive coach at ASU, Kenny Dillingham,
right?
And then we got a positive coach. We were stuck with Herm Edwards. Yeah, rah, 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 I'm on the train and everything. I'm on the train. But he was never like that. Now you're starting to see different style of coaching. We have Bruce Arians, who was a rah-rah guy, but he would also get in your face guy. Jonathan Gannon's not like that. Kenny Dillingham's not like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out for both programs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we wanted to talk about the Diamondbacks and a lot about the Diamondbacks as we head into our last half hour here. I've been saying since day one that the Diamondbacks have become the hunted instead of the hunters this year. That they weren't going to have a good season, and as what are we into the season now? Are we 25 games? 20
roughly
games
20, between 22 and 25 games for everybody.
Into the season, and they're below 500. And you had mentioned that you really think that they're going to be a 500 team. I thought that they would probably be a 500 team as well and not making the playoffs.
Right. And I like you said, we're armchair pitchers, armchair managers for baseball. When everybody was asking me how many wins I thought the Diamondbacks would get, I thought they would get anywhere between 83 to 87 wins this year. And basically that's how it was with last year. It's coming down once again to the bullpen. There's a lot of things. Now, they lost 2 or 3 to the Cardinals. They lost last night in Seattle.
Yeah.
Scott McGough gave up a grand slam. Now, we'll touch on it a little bit. Zach Gallen, he got the start. Really, his last 3 starts, he has not looked good at all. He's looked very erratic to me. He's thrown a lot of pitches. He left the 6th inning, which turned out to be a hamstring injury. He says he's not going to miss any time. So what that did is he's walking off the field, and they have to bring in Scott McGough. Faces former Diamondback prospect Mitch Haniger, hits a grand slam home run. That bullpen is taxed. There's nothing now. Granted, they called up Andrew Saalfrank,
right.
Had a magical year last year. Can he continue that? The only consistent arm they're getting right now is Ryan Thompson.
Yeah.
Kevin Ginkel has looked shaky. Miguel Castro has gone on the IL with a shoulder injury. He's looked very inconsistent. Scott McGough has been inconsistent. Bryce Jarvis, you're getting what you're getting with Bryce Jarvis, a little similar to Brandon Pfaadt. He's probably going to be sent down. He's going to be called back up. There's just not a lot of help down there. Now with Merrill Kelly being out, Eduardo Rodriguez is out. Jordan Montgomery pitched a decent game the other day, and they turned it over to the bullpen. You got Christian Mena, Blake Walston are on the 40-man roster, but they haven't made their debuts yet. You still have Humberto Castellanos and Connor Pilkington. They have limited experience. That's pretty much all they have down at AAA Reno right now. They do have a lot of young prospects, but they're really 2 years away.
Right.
What are the Diamondbacks going to do? And I threw this out here for you. Zach Greinke's out there looking for a job. You went out and got Jordan Montgomery. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not look at Zach Greinke?
Why not bring him in?
I mean, would he want to come back?
Oh, I think Greinke would come back. As long as
he left on good terms. He really did. They traded him so they could get some players for him.
Right. No, I mean, if he wanted to come back, and if the Diamondbacks wanted him back, he'd be back here. Now, what are they going to do? Are they going to stay close? Are they going to stay competitive? Trade deadlines will be coming up, mid-season per se, or a little bit after. Who will they get? Right now, we know they need everything, to tell you the truth. I mean, with Corbin Carroll not hitting and a lot of other guys in the lineup not hitting, Ketel Marte is still playing great. This team, I don't know what Torrey can even do right now to try to shake up the team, because there's a lot of young guys still.
No, and it brings up a good point. Everybody's saying Torrey being Torrey. Why didn't you leave Jordan Montgomery in? Well, hindsight 2020, right? If you'd have left him in, he may have given up the hit. He's still working himself into game shape. Remember,
Right.
He didn't have a spring training. So now, 2 games under, now we got to see what his next start is. But now you're looking at Brandon Pfaadt, Zach Gallen, and Jordan Montgomery. Do we think Gallen says he's not going to miss any time? He could miss a start. What are you going to do? Is Bryce Jarvis going to step in? Is Nelson going to step in? Are they going to go down and bring up Christian Mena or Connor Pilkington? They're both. The bullpen is really hurting. The starting pitching is really hurting, and something that we haven't really talked about too much. Excuse me. They're doing okay, but their defense is a little erratic.
Yeah,
and that's cost them some games. So that's a thing to bring up. And then Paul Sewald, when they traded for him last year, he kind of solidified the bullpen. Granted, he gave up the home run in Texas, and we'll have to see what Paul Sewald we're going to get. He throws a bullpen session today. He threw 21 pitches at Reno and reported no problems. So if he comes back up, that's going to move Ginkel back to being the setup guy. Hopefully he maybe stabilizes the bullpen, but I really don't know at this point. But like you said, Torrey's got a lot of questions that he's got to get answered, and it's starting to really affect the team, where they're basically just a 500 team.
Right. And you did mention, sorry to jump back, but you did mention Jordan Montgomery. Why didn't they keep him in the lineup and so forth? And you hit it right on. He's really still not ready. I mean, look at Brad Snell over there in San Francisco, right? He's hurt now. And you know what? People are saying we blame Scott Boras. We blame Scott Boras for not negotiating, getting these guys signed. He stuck to his guns, and it didn't work, and it's not going to work anymore with Scott Boras. People, as a matter of fact, Jordan Montgomery has fired him as his agent. He fired him because, you know what? He should have been somewhere, coming off a World Series victory, had a very good year. And again, here's guys, you can't blame Bellinger's injury on Boras. Bellinger ran into a wall, right?
Yeah.
But what you can blame on Bellinger not starting off as fast as he would is because he came into camp so late and he didn't have enough at bats. You know, he's not still not playing bad, but could he be playing better if he came in earlier? I believe so.
Right, and that's right. And like you said, he mentioned that Montgomery got rid of Boris. And there's people that like Boris, and there's people that don't like him. But now he's claiming that what do they call it? Collusion again. Here's that magical word from the '90s. The collusion word. But you're right. Some of these pitchers. So we were laughing. Talking about signing Zach Greinke. Anybody who would go out and sign Zach Greinke, look how long it's going to take him to get going. Everybody thinks, if you're going to go out and find a pitcher, it's going to take him a couple of starts to get going. It'll be interesting to see what the Diamondbacks are going to do. Their bullpen, their team ERA is at 4.34, which is one of the worst. There's a difference between save opportunities and blown saves and everything. The Diamondbacks are also struggling with, trying to hold on to the lead and that's really effective. So we're hoping maybe Paul Sewald can solidify. Bringing up the offense, Corbin Carroll is struggling big time. We call it that dreaded sophomore jinx, don't they? What is it about the sophomore jinx? Well, does he have it? Is he going to go through it? There's players, we can go all the way back to Gary Carter. He had a bad second year, but he was able to recover. And, you can name guys in the last few years where they've struggled and, that gets in their head. Part of it is because the pitchers and the other opposing teams have now seen more video on them. And I think people are able to pitch different style to Corbin Carroll. What's his average now? It's below 210 now, isn't it?
No, I believe so, yeah.
He makes the whole team go as well. Yes, you have Christian Walker. Yes, you have Ketel Marte. Jake McCarthy has been solidly consistent. I know last year at this time, everybody wanted to get rid of him. Right. He's a serviceable player, but he cannot be the team leader. But when you get Corbin Carroll on base, getting going, I think he's 7 or 8 stolen bases. So when he gets on, he's able to create something. He's just not getting on base. And what's it going to take for him to get it going?
I honestly don't know why they don't say, listen, your bat's not that great right now. Why don't you bunt? Nobody can get this guy out with his speed. And we've talked about this before. That's why I thought that a prolonged slump wouldn't be in for this guy because of the fact he has this speed. He can hit a slow ground ball and beat it out. Why not bunt him? Why not bunt? Maybe he can't bunt.
Maybe I was just going to say, can he not bunt? And is that part of the problem? So they have 2 more games in Seattle. Then they come home and they play the dreaded Dodgers, and then they have the Padres. They have 6 games before they turn around, go back on the road for a tough road trip where they go to Cincinnati and go to Baltimore. Then they come home and play. I believe play Cincinnati.
Right.
So
and
that's not winning at home.
Right. That Dodgers team that they're going to be facing, they are tough, and we knew they were going to be tough, and they are waking up now. They have literally.
They are starting to get it going.
Yeah, the weather has warmed up a little bit, and they're really starting to hit now.
Well, they've won 5 in a row now. What did they have dropped 7 out of 10, and everybody, of course, in LA is just they're learning to adjust to playing with new players. The Dodgers have a few new players, and sometimes it takes a while to get that going. The NL West is really interesting. Everybody's under 500 except for the Dodgers. And a week ago, the Dodgers, I think, were right at 500.
Right.
So the Dodgers are starting to say, hey, this is our division to run away with. So it's been interesting around Major League Baseball. You're seeing the Braves, the Phillies, everybody are talking about. Looks like the Mets are kind of getting it rolling a little bit too. Very impressed with the Brewers and the Cubs. I like Pat Murphy. Of course, he's an ASU guy, ASU head coach. So I have a little feeling with the Brewers and everything. I thought it was going to be, and it still could be. I mean, we're still early, like I said, anywhere between 22 to 30 games for some of these teams. They're 17-9 right now, and he's got this team believing that they can win. The Cubs have been a nice surprise, and I told you I had a prediction for the Cubs making the playoffs and possibly going to the World Series. Yeah, go ahead and trash me now, everybody. But yeah, it's interesting what's going on in the Central.
Right, and you know, when you mention the Cubs actually have some injuries. You know, take a
They
look.
do have injuries.
You know, for you know, forget Bellinger. We know that he just cracked that rib, hitting the wall the other night, but they don't know what they're going to do with Kyle Hendricks. I believe that he's really hurt, that they put him on the IL right now. No, I don't believe so.
No,
I believe
I
believe they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with him, because you and I have both talked about this. I think he's done being a starting pitcher and maybe done being in his career. He's just not good. Now, do they need some more? I think they still, if they have a weakness, I think it's still in the starting pitching. I think they still need some starting pitching. Justin Steele hopefully will be coming back pretty soon from his hamstring injury. But we shall see. I think that might be their only weakness that they might have. I think they're a pretty good hitting ball club, and not everybody's going as of yet.
Well, tell me a little bit, and you and I had mentioned this last week. Pete Crow Armstrong.
Yep.
Finally gets a call up, didn't he?
Yep.
He's looked pretty good. He wasn't he with the Mets? And then they traded him to the Cubs as, you know, a part of a package deal. But he has worked really hard in the minor leagues. When he came up, he was just strictly a line drive hitter. And they worked with him on being too aggressive at the plate. And this guy has an opportunity to be, you know, he's got some plus size speed and he's got some outstanding instincts of the game. I'm really excited to see him play for the Cubs.
Yeah, and we both. I don't know if you watched any of the game last night. You probably were watching basketball, which we'll get into that. The Suns being down 3-0, but you know, the thing is, I did watch the Cubs Boston game last night, and you know, Crow Armstrong is starting to hit the ball. He's only been up a couple games now, right?
Right, and I think he's got 7 at bats, but he had his first home run.
His first major league hit was a home run.
Was
that
and
home
how many
run?
players? Right.
And that was a bomb too. That was way up in that right field bleacher area where I used to sit as a kid. That's where I sat. I didn't sit on the left side with the so-called bleacher bums, because the bleacher bums sat on the left and the left field stands. I always sat in the right field stands. I sat there. I was there for a Bert Hooton no-hitter. It was freezing that day. And when I would go there, you know, it was only like $1, right? Back then.
Right.
You know, I'm dating myself. But the thing is, it was a buck to sit there. We'd get there early. We'd take the L, which is our subway system there, right? And you know, we'd get off at Addison Avenue. We'd walk that half a block, and we'd buy our $1 ticket, and we'd get there so early that we got the front row, right? And you could yell down to the players, and they would respond back, and just fun stuff at Wrigley Field. And it's kind of fun to see two old if you want to tell them, two old franchises with the two oldest parks in baseball going at each other, right?
Right.
It was kind of fun. And what was even better last night, when the Cubs won 7-1, there were so many Cub fans there, they were actually flying the W. Winfield flags.
Really?
No, yeah. There were so many there. Yeah, it was great.
One more thing on the Cubs and Crow Armstrong.
Yeah.
He's only 22, 5'11". He plays all 3 outfield positions, and he plays them well. So the Cubs would be able to move him around. I think they're probably looking at him more maybe as a right fielder, but he's played left field and he's played center field, and he does it well.
Yeah.
So
he's
real
played,
interesting that
right.
I'd like to see him stay up the whole year. Now Bellinger comes back, they got an interesting move. Are they gonna, maybe Bellinger ends up playing a lot more DH, I'm guessing. So it'll be interesting who's going to be sent down, because I'm telling you, the Cubs should be really happy with Pete Crow Armstrong.
Right, and it is I guess it's a good position for the Cubs, and we'll get into basketball here in a minute, but I guess it's a good position for the Cubs because Michael Busch is playing first base. They can put Bellinger back at first base if they need to. They could DH him. They could DH Busch. Right now, here's another weakness of the Cubs, and let me just tell you, Christopher Morel is not your answer at third base. They've been playing him there. They need a third baseman, a true third baseman. Madrigal just doesn't do it. I mean, he's decent, all right? But you can't take Morel's bat out of the lineup. What do you do?
I'm going to throw a name out there for you. Let me throw a name out there for you at third base. Jace Peterson.
Okay.
Cubs could go out and sign former Diamondback Jace Peterson. You would love it. You are Jace Peterson's biggest follower. I can see it now. The Cubs go out and sign former Diamondback Jace Peterson. I know you're trying not to laugh because you're on the air, but I just thought I'd throw that out there. Can you imagine Jace Peterson in a Cubs uniform?
Hell no.
Okay.
No, that was the worst move that they made last year. Who did they trade to get that guy?
I just had to put a little humor in there.
Who did they trade?
We're leading up to about.
You know what? When you said that, I almost acted shocked. I was like,
I know. I think I caught you off guard there a little bit because
Jace Peterson.
You thought I was going to bring up a popular name. Well, it's because I kind of had to tie it into what we're leading into. The last 10 minutes of the show that we have, we're going to talk about the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah.
What happened last night was an embarrassment. This team lost. Now they face elimination. They lost 126 to 109.
Yeah.
The Timberwolves are playing a complete game every game, and they've taken the Suns out of any rhythm, whatever rhythm the Suns have had.
Yeah,
Anthony Edwards continues to be a handful for the Suns.
Right, and I didn't watch the game last night. And I told you that. I mean, I don't watch NBA basketball. I mean, if the Suns would make it to a finals, I would watch the games, right? But I just haven't. I don't understand when you have two of the best players in the league right off the bat. I mean, you've got Booker and you've got Durant, and they're not carrying the team. This isn't Scotty and Michael, It isn't those two. They're not those two, and they haven't really been great all year. The Suns team, and I blame the coach. I don't know how Monty wound up doing this year in Detroit. And I wasn't a big Monty fan either because I really figured that the year that they did go to the playoffs and went to the finals, I think that he got outcoached, and that was the reason that they didn't win the finals that year.
Right. Yeah, they were outcoached. He had a long season in Detroit. They're going to end up. They were the worst team in the league. Hopefully, they'll get the number one pick once again. But you're talking about Booker and Durant. Don't forget Bradley Beal. That's considered the big three. The big three of Booker, Durant, and Beal. They're not a super team. Everybody thought they were going to be a super team when they had these three guys. This is one of the most disappointing seasons in franchise history since I've been a Suns fan since 1968 when we moved to Arizona, 5 years old. That's, like you said, we're dating ourselves.
Right.
I've seen some really bad Phoenix Suns teams. This has been the most disappointing season in franchise history. They need a playmaking guard. They've had Kevin Durant and Booker handling playmaking duties. I'm sorry. They're not playmaking guards. This team needs a playmaking guard. They're going to end up with the 22nd pick in the NBA draft. You go after a playmaking guard. There's just not a lot of playmaking guards out there. This team is a broken team. Let me say that again. This team is a broken team. I don't necessarily think it's the coaches. I don't necessarily think it's the players. I think it's a combination of the players, the coaches, the style of play. Frank Vogel was brought in because he was a defensive guru. They were embarrassed in the second quarter in the first game, the second game, and then last night it was the third quarter. They just seemed to go out there. First off, I think they took Minnesota for granted and they got punched in the face.
Yeah.
Both games. Then they figure, well, I'm going to come home. We're coming home to Phoenix. We're going to be at Footprint Center. We're going to have our own fans. They played an okay game up until halftime. Third quarter started and they got smoked. And I think they just sat back and just said, oh, it's over and done with. Now you have to wonder, are they going to get swept 4-0? I think this team they packed it in. I'm sorry. I'm a huge Phoenix Suns fan, and this is my little rant. This team, it's a broken team, and the problem is they don't have a lot of draft picks. They don't have a lot of money to go out. Losing Mikal Bridges, Cam Payne, Cam Johnson, that definitely hurt. DeAndre Ayton, I'm glad he's gone. I thought Yusuf Nurkic played way better than he did all season long, but that was not the only issue. The Suns need a playmaking guard. They got to get better at defense, and they got to find a way just to go back to fix this being a broken team. And I just don't know if they can do that. There's my rant.
You can keep on ranting as far as I'm concerned. Says, I think they're going to get swept. It sure looks that way. You said they packed it in. They're just not. They're not playing and they're not being coached. And right. I don't know what they're going to wind up doing next year with this particular coach, because he hasn't been the answer they thought he would be. But I don't know. I expected a lot more enthusiasm out of this team the whole year. I just haven't seen it. It almost looks like they're going through the motions. At least they had, the only thing I could say about when Monty was here is the team had some heart, and they don't appear to have any heart at all on the few games that I've watched.
Devin Booker has, I don't know if the word is regressed, but he's kind of taken a step back. He's not that leader that he had been the last couple of years. And is it because he turned it over to Durant? Just my opinion, my humble and accurate opinion, Kevin Durant's already won his championships. If he wins another one, he just can add it. He's a future Hall of Famer. Adding to another one, Booker needs to be a little bit more aggressive. He's never had the opportunity to get one, and it's going to be a very interesting offseason for the Phoenix Suns. Let's close it out with some, everybody know that tomorrow at 3 o'clock is indoor football. Arizona Rattlers. And you and I are big Rattler fans. You used to be an announcer for the game for the Rattlers. So we're going to be out at Glendale at the new arena, and they bring in the Jacksonville Sharks. Jacksonville hasn't won a game yet. The Rattlers are 2-3, and they're still trying to find their identity. So it's going to to be interesting.
It's a must win for them. It's a must win.
It is a must win for them, because the Western Division, Western Conference is very strong. So I'm hoping this team, you could see when I was at the game a couple weeks ago and then watching the Iowa game last week, they're sort of starting to gel together. A lot of new players coming back. I'm sorry, a lot of new players with the guys that are coming back. Just like any other sport, it's going to take a while to get used to them. So I think we're going to see an interesting game tomorrow. If anybody's out there and want to come out, you can't miss Bob and myself. Just look for the two bald heads and we'll be out there. So it'll be interesting to get out and get some indoor football going on.
Absolutely. Well, I guess that's it for today. So
yeah, that hour went by quickly, didn't it?
It sure did.
Okay, well, we're going to wrap it up, and we'll be back again next Saturday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. This is Jim Marshall, a.k.a. Baseball, and Bob Kingpin Aries signing off. Have a good day, everyone.